6 minutes past 12, so I'll ask you to take your seats. Good afternoon, there's a bit of silence. Thank you very much indeed. My name is Jane Morris, and I'm going to be moderating this section. And what we have is, in terms of housekeeping, first of all, we're going to, as you heard this morning, we're going to be allowed to run till just about 1:15 by our interpreters. And so we have just over an hour. But I want this to be a very interactive section. You have had the opportunity to go out and get coffee. So, so I'm expecting a lively debate, and be warned, if you don't ask questions, I'll ask you questions. Okay, so what we want to do is run through this session. What the plan is, first of all, we have a representative, Carmen from Amnesty International, who's going to give us a longer version of her view of how to campaign. And then, as you can see, we've got a panel of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we are going to each give their short versions of campaign, giving you advice on it. But if there's any organisers in the audience, we would certainly appreciate that you speak afterwards and put up your hands. And as I say, we're going to run to 25 to 1:21, and then open the floor for you. I think we're all prepared after a very interesting listening session this morning. It's now your opportunity to let's hear what you have to say. Okay, I'm going to start with Carmen Dupont, Amnesty International European Campaign Coordinator on Migration. Over to you, Carmen. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all, and thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to speak here. I promise, Jane, I won't take too long. I'll try my best to stick to that. I want to offer you some perspectives on campaigning from my time with Amnesty International so far. I've been with Amnesty for 4 years now, working on asylum and migration. I started at the Flemish section, working more on policy issues, but since 2 years I've been working on our European campaign on migration. But I also want to offer you some of my personal views as an activist, as a human rights activist. And I think that's quite important to emphasize also in this discussion. Because I think one of the key words when we talk about campaigning and changing the world, trying to change a part of the world, is passion and engagement. And is believing that the impossible actually is possible. Starting a campaign half-heartedly does not make much sense. And I must say that in my time with Amnesty, and also before joining Amnesty and just being an activist, I really believed in people power and in the power of a movement. And I think it's very important to work with that idea. Recently, last week, and I'm sure some of you will have seen that in the news, the Arms Trade Treaty was voted in the UN in New York. And that is a campaign that Amnesty has been working on for more than 20 years. Of course, not only Amnesty, but a lot of other organizations. And that was a great win, and that's also when you also feel the passion across the movement and the connection. You get emails from all over the world congratulating each other and encouraging each other. And I think that is very important in terms of campaigning. So passion, but also connection. I think for me that is also one of the key words when it comes down to campaigning, and we actually have heard this already this morning. How can you bring people together? How can you reunite them for a cause and convince people that they are part of something, part of a community? And I think we shouldn't underestimate the power of connection. And also connecting in real life, I mean, the fact that I'm now here talking to you in real life is different as if you would be reading something on, an article that I've written about campaigning. And I think in this time of technology and social media, sometimes we forget how important it is to really connect. And that is also one of the powers I think that Amnesty has. We work with a lot of local groups of local activists, and we almost unite as a family who believes in people's power. And I think for campaigning, it's very important to invest in that aspect and to not forget about that. Innovation, of course, is important. Keep surprising people. Make them interested. Trigger something. And of course, in any campaigning, right from the start, the direction is the crucial thing. Before you start campaigning, you have to know where you're going. And also in deciding the direction and your destination, you have to talk to the right people. For Amnesty, for example, it means if we want to change a certain human rights situation, for example, in my work for migrants and asylum seekers and refugees, of course you talk to the migrants and the refugees and the asylum seekers, and you ask them what the problem is and how you can help, and what makes sense for them to do. And that's the only way to then get them involved and get them engaged in your campaign and really work together. I was asked to talk a bit about how to keep the momentum in a campaign, which is very difficult. I must say, also from my own experience, it's a difficult one. I put on this. Of course, it's a yellow card because I represent Amnesty International. But I put on this picture of a car because I would like to compare campaigning and keeping the momentum with driving, how to keep driving and know where you're going at the same time. Of course, we already talked about the direction, the destination. It's key that you clearly decide on your goals and your objectives, on clear messages for people, so that they can really get on board, that they can be part of the journey and then really also know where they're going. You need a good driver and a co-pilot, of course, and these people need to know very clearly where the journey is going. They have mapped it out in advance, and they know exactly what they will need along the way. I also put down that it's tricky to rely on cruise control or a GPS system when driving this car. I think sometimes it's very tempting when you have devised a campaign strategy and you believe with your campaign team that you're going in the right direction, to just get stuck in that reasoning and then lose sight of external opportunities. That happens from time to time, and it's important to be aware of that. And then, of course, you need to make sure that you have strategic stops along the way to keep yourself and the people around you going. Take time to assess where you are, to mark progress, but also to renew your energy. For example, in the case of Amnesty, for example, we try to do from time to time these public actions with activists, activities that really give a boost to our membership, that allow you to make noise and gives a sense that you're on the right track and you're getting your voices out there. For example, in 2 weeks, and I must say, since I started this work with Amnesty, I've been wanting to do this. But in 2 weeks, we're going to have a big old boat in the streets around the European Parliament and bring it in front of the European Parliament to ask attention for the situation of refugees and migrants who try to cross to Europe and how they are treated along the borders. And these are moments that we know will not, from one day to another, will change European policies. But at the same time, it's also a boost for ourselves and to show that we are here and we demand to be listened to. Of course, support along the way, partners, as we all know, are very important, especially on the work that you are trying to do here. It's a big challenge to embark on the European Citizens Initiative, and as already mentioned, it's important to be well prepared and have the right people around you. And the most important thing, I would say, to keep driving and keep the momentum going is, yeah, your petrol for your car, but I would say your activists. The people that you can mobilize, the people that support you, those are the ones that will push your cause and that will help you to reach your goal. And that is really challenging, also for Amnesty, because how do you convince people that what you have to say is actually relevant, and how do you convince them to care? As already mentioned, it's important that you communicate your goal and your message very clearly to people, so that they know that they can embark on a journey with you, and that together you can actually get there, and to communicate a lot also along the way about impact and progress and how you are doing. For example, I know that Amnesty activists, I know some activists who've been with Amnesty for 30 years, and some of them have been working on individual cases, political prisoners, for example, for over 20 years, and you think, how do you keep going? But because it's clear, and they actually know that this person is in this specific prison, and you report on what is happening, and sometimes also that person is reacting, you actually get people on board for these causes. Innovate and connect. As I said, I think these are very important things to maybe more pragmatic tips I would like to give on this is that at Amnesty we see that the multiplier effect is very, very interesting. For example, as part of the European Migration Campaign, we organize activism camps for our activists. We had one in Lampedusa last year, and we invite people from all over Europe, from different countries, who then get empowered during the week and then go back to their country, but really are ambassadors for your cause. And it really creates this multiplier effect. They are motivated, they know what it's about, and then they just carry on the work by themselves, and you kind of build up a movement. And so, participation and ownership, I think, is very important. And the other point is technology. Technology, I'm not so much talking about, but I guess we'll discuss later today about how to collect the signatures. That's one of the things. But technology also to connect to people. For example, some of you might have heard about this project in India, where through technology, through missed calls, people who literally don't have anything, maybe just a phone without using money on it, can make a missed call to a certain number, and then their signature is registered. And there are very interesting things these days, and it's also a big momentum in the world of technology, activism, campaigning, human rights. There's a lot of thinking around how we can use technology meaningfully. And there are a lot of resources out there as well. The people from Google and Microsoft, for example, have this great initiative, Random Acts of Kindness. And then sometimes they bring hackers and programmers together for a whole weekend. I've been to one last year, and you can pitch your campaign idea, and then you have all these people who stay up the whole weekend and literally don't sleep and try to give you technology solutions. It's very interesting. So I'm going to conclude by saying, it's a long and bumpy road. That's often the case with campaigning, and I think already the point was made that preparation is very important, I think, in the context of ECI. 1 year for collecting 1 million signatures, to me, sounds very challenging. So I think a lot of things have to be put in place. And also, yes, you will have noticed I didn't put down a yellow Ferrari, because that's not the model that we are driving, also not at Amnesty. We don't have much resources. We're not driving the last model, so we have to be creative, resourceful, and rely on people's power in the first place and not on money. I'm going to leave it there and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much indeed, Carmen. Can I just follow this driving analogy? I'm sorely tempted. I stood as a politician for a new political party in Northern Ireland, and my name, as you can see, is Jane Morris. So obviously I campaigned. I happen to have a Morris Mac convertible, which is a very old car, and I used it for my campaign. And I was lucky enough to get the headline of the paper, "Morris is no minor." Yes, so that's exactly the same driving analogy, creativity and originality. I got elected, by the way, yes. So can we move on, please, to Simona Conquite, if I've got that pronunciation right. Oh, thank you. Fraternity 2020 Mobility. Please.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, on the behalf of Fraternity 2020, I would like to thank for this invitation and great opportunity to present you Fraternity 2020. Very shortly, Fraternity was registered last year as the first ECI, and the main aim is to enhance the European exchange programs like Comenius, EVS, Erasmus, Leonardo, and to give more opportunities for young people, particularly in this time when youth unemployment is very high, particularly in certain regions like Southern and Eastern Europe. I was asked to talk and give some short updates about outreach. So far, we managed to get almost 61,000 signatures from all 27 countries. Our leading countries are Germany, Spain, Belgium, Italy, and France. And the smallest countries like Cyprus, Malta, or Luxembourg, they have the lowest number of signatures. Talking about media, from time to time we have interviews, we get emails from universities, PhD students, master degree students who wrote their thesis about ECS in general, so they send us to write, asking about the idea, about how we use, for example, social media, about cooperation, etc., or, for example, constitutional law. One of the last our interview was published in EU published public affairs by Maastricht University last week. Talking as the colleague from Amnesty International told, cooperation is very important and crucial point for this for European pan-European campaign. We have a very close cooperation with AG Europe, Erasmus Student Network, European Student Union, Campus European. So anytime when we organize, for example, press conferences or flash mob actions, we try to invite all our supporting NGOs, also random citizens to take part, and also to keep our cooperation in order to get more signatures from young people, students, universities, etc. We also, in total, we have 142 supporting NGOs from European Union member states and around 30 from for the Balkans, Turkey, Ukraine, Georgia, Armenia, Belarus. So it's also a good point because this initiative is also quite well known outside European Union. So far, we have 67 supporting MEPs. Foundation is also very important point for ECI. At the moment, we managed to get 7,000 euros from two European foundations, from École Supérieure des Sciences Commerciales and Global to you NGO. Our initiative consists of 50 citizens from all European countries and 12 associate members. As colleague mentioned, people power is very important. So these people, they are more active in social media by contacting MEPs, local entities, local politicians, local NGOs, and also by spreading a word, for example, on the Facebook pages or LinkedIn or Twitter accounts, etc. Also, some of our mandate members of Citizen Committee managed to get in national television. It happened in Bulgaria, so they have like 1 hour streaming with the national television and talking about ECI because they were invited by MEP. So it also was a great success in Bulgaria, and we have quite a lot of signatures from Bulgaria. Even if these people are not based in Brussels, but somehow they are very active at the local and national level. Regarding translations, on the European Commission website, we have 24 languages and approximately 16 languages. So it's also very important by approaching random citizens, because not all speak English, French, or other European languages. So we try to approach random citizens as much as we can. And everything that we've done so far, it's done on a voluntary basis, because all of us, we are just volunteers. But this idea inspired us to make this initiative successful and to believe, and also to give something to inspire young people to be active citizens. About momentum, we had our successful month was November. We set up an event on Facebook called Help Erasmus, and we managed to invite almost 1 million people, like friends of the friends, our Christians, our supporters, etc. But sadly, we didn't pay attention about the date, and this event is expired in a few weeks. In this month, we managed to get 50,000 signatures, because it's also where agreed the basic European level about the budget, cutting Erasmus foundations. So it was the most successful period for Proximity 2020, but we learned by doing. So we set up a new event with 1 year period. So we hope that this creative event on Facebook will be also very successful, as it was last year. And also we have some new campaigns, because we decided to personalize Proximity 2020. So we have a new campaign. Everyone deserves a chance to go abroad. Help Pablo to go on Erasmus, help Katya to go on EVS. We also have about Comenius and Leonardo programs, and you can grab those nice postcards outside on our table. And also on this occasion, I would like to invite all of you to our press conference tomorrow at 10 as contemporary president of the European Parliament, where we can talk more about mobility and our challenges with our ECI. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Simona. I think if you're talking inspiration, you certainly got passion that Carmen was talking about earlier, that you definitely showed it there. Thank you. And you took the opportunity of advertising your campaign at the same time. I'm going to move on swiftly to it's Anna Gori Meet, Icon of European Education for All.
Good morning, thank you very much. My name is Anna Gori, and I'm president of MEET, which stands for Movement Towards the European Education, the European Movement for, Movement Towards the European Education Trust. We launched our campaign in the 6th of December here in this building, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the committee for all their work in assisting ECIs making their premises available and for us. It's not easy to find help like that, especially when everybody's trying so hard to be neutral. We actually only started our online collection in January after we heard this morning many difficulties with regard to the technical and legal requirements of the online collection system. Who are we? We are actually just very ordinary European citizens, and we joined together with this idea of using the European Citizens Initiative as a new tool towards bringing together networks and associations already working in the field of education, intercultural dialogue, social cohesion, and the idea was to bring everybody together with one common purpose, and we felt that this was something that the ECI tool really could do. 1 million signatures is a difficult, very difficult challenge, but and so being done by sort of little groups felt better to bring everybody together. And the concrete goal was to somehow see how all the existing ideas, because there's really so much, such terrific work happening in this field everywhere, so many resolutions and recommendations could be brought together to sort of be implemented rather than just continuing in somebody's bottom drawer. As Amnesty's very interesting presentation said, we're working with the multiplier effect, and we're constantly being joined by new networks. However, this takes time. It's even more time than one thinks, because you have holidays and you have Easter. This is definitely something that is building up, and that's what we actually find the most important thing about the ECI. It is a point which brings people around to talk about the issues, and sometimes it's hard to get them to stop talking about education and focus on getting the million signatures, because actually all our ECI is asking for is a platform on education. So the discussion will start then, and so it's very difficult to get the focus and the car driving in the right direction for signatures. We are totally voluntary, and we did try to get funding actually through the Citizens Programme, but believe me, that's absolutely very, very difficult and tough to do. There is, even in the year of the citizen, it's hard to get money on that. I would say that our core team is really 12, and they do a fantastic job. We have all the languages translated. Our website covers about 10 languages as well, but that is because those are the people working on the issues in their country. So it's not for me to sort of say how they, in their countries, see the issues. It's them, and we're all just trying to have it in the same general framework. The issue about the language barrier is an interesting one, because I don't know if you've all had the experience of getting the very horrid email back when you've sent in your language translation, and it says, "We regret to inform you that we cannot add your new language because there are manifest and significant inconsistencies between the original text and the translation," where there's a tiny interpretation question, and I don't speak Hungarian, so I don't know, and it gets sort of rather frustrating dealing with that. And the offer of the EU doing that, when we asked them even to change, what did they suggest after Lithuanian came back 3 times, what did they suggest would be the language translation? They refused to do it because they said that would be interfering or something. So because we have people on the ground and working in all these, we have all the languages, and they manage their own Facebook pages as well in their own languages, so that's very good. So the sort of core team of 12 are really at the European sort of level. Just very quickly to finish, you're talking about momentum and setbacks and on all those sorts of things. There are several things that have not been mentioned today. One is the fact that, and it was mentioned in previous ECI meetings, so I'm surprised it's not in Bruno's report, there are many EU citizens that cannot vote, literally cannot vote. We get lots of emails saying, "I'm from the UK or Ireland and I live in France and I can't vote either in the UK or in France." I've heard that maybe this is as many as 11 million. This is our target audience and they can't vote. So this is a huge problem that nobody wants to talk about today. The second huge problem is the data protection. In the end, after having really had no joy in understanding what data protection measures I must take as the responsible person for my campaign, wrote to all the European data protection authorities, informing them of and registering our initiative with them. I can't tell you the different kinds of replies I've had back from all sorts of suggestions that I have to register in every Länder in Germany. I mean, it's just a joke. And I still have had no response from France, which is where the ECI team have suggested that I am responsible too. Still no reply. So these are really difficult issues to deal with when you're a citizen and you don't have the access to lots of the more legal and technical things. But
We're enjoying the challenge very, very much, and more people are coming on board, so that's very good news. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And don't worry, you can see your frustration building there, and I think we're going to get definitely another opportunity to come in. Yes. Good. Don't worry, and we'll get you definitely going back. And these are important points that you brought up, and for the first time today, I think very, very valid. More than I think. Can I pass on, please, to is it Gail Drillen? C'est à vous, responsible for waste management against incineration. Thank you very much.
Bonjour, merci de m'avoir invité.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I want to talk about our citizens' initiative on responsible waste management and incineration. This is a French initiative. We are currently 7 of us working on the project. There is also a support committee of 20 people. Our strong point, which is also a bit of a weak point, is that we work independently as citizens. We drafted a text. We did all the preparatory work. And obviously we regard independence as one of our strong points. It is a matter of collective responsibility and citizenship. We are now, however, encountering difficulties in technical terms and with the media. Our major difficulty is the use of the available tools. We have been assisted by our European partners, but it is quite difficult. It takes a great deal of commitment and a great deal of time. Our problem is really travelling and creating links so that we can convince people in different parts of Europe. It's very difficult to do that. We have a further problem, and this is one you should be aware of, and that is to get elected politicians at European level to recognise our project. This isn't easier in France, nor is it easier with local or regional media, let alone national media. The reason may be that we are completely unknown citizens, or it may be that the ECI doesn't really feature in the minds of our politicians or our media. But there's also the translation problem. That wasn't difficult with launching online. We were able to use Google to make contacts in other European countries. That worked out very well. Now our initiative is on the website, but of course we have had problems with translation because everything that we proposed was rejected. So that is a summary of what our project is about.
Very much indeed. Thank you very much. I was just in the process of writing the list of problems here. Thank you. And I think we're going to definitely have a lively debate with these issues that have been raised in this way. I'm going now to, is it Vincent Chauvet for the Single Communication Tariff Act. To you, Vincent. Thank you.
Merci. Thank you. Well, today's debate concerns how to provide information on the citizens' initiatives. And a year after the beginning of the European Citizens' Initiative, how much progress have we made? That's the question. And I think that the response is simple. Information on the Citizens' Initiative is something of a failure. And there are simple figures to demonstrate this. Reference was made to Eurobarometer before, and the Commissioner said that citizens are fairly well aware of their rights, and particularly the citizens' initiatives. Now, there's a multiple choice approach to this, and it says that you are a European citizen, and then it talks about what rights do you have, diplomatic protection and non-discrimination in another country, and only 73% of the people asked said that they had the right to use the Citizens' Initiative, which was one of the options. So 27% feel that they don't have this entitlement and that this right doesn't exist. And if you look at more detailed surveys, you can see that only 1/4, a bit less than a quarter, of European citizens have heard about the European Citizens' Initiative. Now, why is that? There are structural reasons and more cyclical reasons. The structural reasons relate to the organisation of the initiatives at the moment. And all this frustration, which Gail has talked about, and Anna, about setting up the initiatives with the translation problems, the fact that citizens in another country can't sign up to the form, they just receive an error message, and they don't know why they can't sign up. And the data protection authorities, like the French authorities, people there haven't been properly trained, and a lot of them simply don't know what a citizens' initiative is. So there are all sorts of obstacles which mean that it's very difficult to have a successful campaign, a professional, dynamic campaign for the citizens' initiatives. And there are other factors which have been referred to, the fact that you need to have high-performance technology, you need innovative technology. Now, if you have a signature site which is as hopeless as the one that was proposed by the European Commission, how is that supposed to help us? Now, I don't want to impinge on this afternoon's workshops, but I think that there is a need to reform in order to improve communication, because 1 year is a very long period of time, but it's also a short period of time. It's a long period of time, because you need to keep volunteers on board for a year. As Simona said, they're not paid, they're volunteers, these people. And we want to eliminate roaming tariffs. That's our initiative. But are you willing to devote yourself to that on an unpaid basis for a whole year? Well, that's difficult to expect from people. And sometimes we've involved students, and they end up finding a job, or they do other things, so they don't have as much time to get involved in this sort of campaign. But it's a short period of time as well, because raising the profile of this kind of subject, this precise idea, raising the profile in just 1 year, well, it's not a lot of time. This is difficult to pull off. We have the Right to Water initiative, which does have 1 million signatures, but if you ask a Eurobarometer to sound out how many European citizens have heard about this Right to Water initiative, have heard about the efforts to try to assert this right to water, well, you'll find that even an initiative that has 1 million signatures is not particularly well known. So awareness raising needs to be improved even in that case. And very quickly, on the other factors which might improve communication, initiatives supported by well-known organizations like Amnesty, that's one way forward. This may help to make people more aware. And we have Ben & Jerry's now, a well-known company. They have expressed their willingness to get on board. But because of all these obstacles, and because of it being such a time-consuming process, they eventually dropped out. So there is room for improvement. I was at the Sciences Expo a couple of weeks ago in Paris, together with a group of students. And there's a We Need to Talk initiative now. This relates to the use of soft drugs. And this is something that may be of interest to the media. It remains to be seen. And all of these things hopefully will contribute to creating a more dynamic professional campaign. The Chair. Well, thank you very much. Well, I can see how passionate you are.
Alain, right. Thank you very much. I will advise, I'm really trying to stick to 3 minutes for our last speakers if we can. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Madame.
Thank you, Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, I represent the Let Me Vote initiative and its Citizens Committee, as well as a French association, the Europe Without Frontiers, which has been considering the development of European citizenship. We also have very limited resources. We work with volunteers, a small number of motivated people in various member states. The purpose of our initiative is to give a right to vote to all European citizens in their country of residence in all elections, including elections to the European Parliament and local elections. We were one of the first initiatives to be registered. That was the 1st of April last. We began with a great deal of determination and enthusiasm and a familiarity with the regulation. What that meant was that we were not surprised by the difficulties that we encountered. As my colleague on the left has emphasized, the difficulties relating to ECIs are as a result not just of the application of the regulation, but also of the way in which it was designed. For example, certain European citizens are excluded from signing as a result of the system for individual data protection. Dr. Hefner's forecast, looking at it from a French point of view, seems rather optimistic. We have encountered difficulties, and essentially the difficulty was creating some computer system that would meet the requirements in Luxembourg. Getting over that problem turned out to be impossible, both in financial terms and in terms of technical skills. Without the assistance of the European Union and the use of their Luxembourg server, we would never have got over this problem. The fact that you've prepared a file for the Luxembourg authorities, the fact that you've done a risk assessment, just that is a very heavy workload, which took us a good number of months. The good news, however, is that since last week we have overcome this problem, and Let Me Vote is now open. It will conclude on the 28th of January 2014. So if you're interested in signing or learning more about our initiatives, please look at our website. This year has nonetheless not been completely wasted, to sound a positive note, because it has enabled us to prepare our campaign. And I'd mention a few of the things that we've done. Since the 1st of April 2012, we created a website in several languages. That's still under development. We shall be adding several further languages. We have also made contact with a number of other European associations, such as the European Union of Federalists. They have provided us with their know-how in campaigning, which is very useful, and also a number of other associations, albeit in a small number of member states. we have been in contact with the media, and there have already been publications in some member states. We benefited from a broadcast on Euronews. That was devoted to the subject of Let Me Vote. We also benefited from assistance from the University Institute in Florence, which organised a debate on European voting rights in the country of residence. That was a bit academic, but it did spark off a certain amount of debate and proved to be very useful in terms of making our arguments known. I'll conclude by emphasising something that was said at the beginning of this morning, and that is presence in European institutions. We are supported by a number of members of the European Parliament, as well as the Committee of the Regions, explicitly in the report that they adopted at the beginning of the year on the development of European citizenship. They explicitly gave us their support and their assistance. So our initiative is central to the European Year of Citizenship, and we hope to get through on the 28th of January 2014. Thank you.
And I think we'll be queuing up outside to let me vote, to join, to sign up to it. Thank you. And our last speaker, before we open it up, is close. 30 kilometers per hour. Let's hear about that. Thank you.
I'm going to speak in German if I may.
Can we take a moment to put on headphones for those who need, please, because that takes a second to just get yourselves prepared. Thank you. Okay.
Ja, vielen.
Well, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to tell you something about our initiative. First of all, on the partners and the network making up our ECI. First of all, the subject, though. We have a very hot topic, politically speaking, at the moment. Reducing driving speed in urban areas, in cities, hence the 30 kilometers an hour. So we want to reduce the speed limit in urban areas. This is a very old subject, of course, in transport policy. For a long time, no progress has been made on this. And when we decided to go for this initiative, the first thing we were confronted with was, where do we start? And this is such an older subject, so how should we approach it? But there's a lot of impatience on this subject, and this is part of what motivated us. We have 65 organizations involved from 16 countries, and the trend is upwards. There are more and more people getting involved. Now, there's a very broad range of organizations. We have health-related organizations, pedestrian organizations, cycling associations, car share organizations, that are concerned with children and the elderly. And overall, the organizational structure varies widely as well. And this inevitably means that we have a lot of professionals involved in our network, but we also have a lot of volunteers as well. And I think that we really are a true grassroots movement, what is normally understood by that concept. And we want to communicate the fact that our initiative is a way of citizens making their voice heard. So we have a heterogeneous group, a lot of people involved, not much money. And of course that's the first point of criticism from me. the money that we had was almost entirely spent on the software problems. We are one of the 2 organizations that collect on our own server. And we needed 5 months, literally, from March to August, for our IT expert to get things going, to get things working. And this long period of time, well, this involved a lot of different, a lot of working hours, a lot of high leasing costs for the server, a lot of toing and froing between us and the commission, and a very difficult situation. So in terms of our main area, the media campaign, we basically have to make do with pretty much nothing at all, no money at all. And obviously this is a big problem for us. We don't have much time, so I'll move straight on to another point, where I think we all need to make progress. Languages. This has already been touched on. What Anna Gori was talking about, translations being rejected and trying again. And this is often people who are not professional translators. So we've run into this problem as well. And we had another problem too. Which is the very important phase, is the start phase for the media. And there, just a few days after the start of the online collection process, the technology just didn't work. And it literally took until the 20th of December for this to work. And during that period of time, we could only collect in English, which eliminates a lot of people. Not because we have stupid citizens who don't understand English, but we have a Europe of 23 languages. This is part of our culture. And a lot of people want to have the text in their own language, which is absolutely fair enough, but it wasn't possible. So now we've looked at the contract, and it says that relevant documents should be translated into all official languages. And I think that an ECI, which is already underway, it's registered, and you know this 4 weeks in advance. I think that this is relevant. This is a relevant thing, and the translation should be automatic. So the Commission's already taken its decision that it's going to authorize this. I think that once that is done, automatically translations should be available for that citizens' initiative. Obviously, you have to limit the length of the texts, but I think it is very important to apply that contract to the letter. On the media strategy, well, we're trying to make the best of things, and there are going to be 2 waves in our activity where we want to pursue online campaigns in order to get hold of more votes, more signatures. And where we are really successful is in the new contacts that we forge. For example, with various urban networks which are starting to take our activities seriously. So maybe the ECI could form just a small part of an overall strategy, but I'm sure that ultimately we'll achieve our objectives.
Thank you very much indeed to all our panelists. I think you can tell by the passion how important every single issue is to every single one. I was going to start off by talking about the key word that Carmen brought out about what is needed for a campaign, but I've actually changed, because I think what has come out from people at the end is, I think it's valuable to talk about the problems, and especially taking the opportunity of the Commissioner coming back, the Vice President, excuse me, coming back, to just remind people what they said here about problems. 1, people who can't vote. 2, the language barriers, and virtually every single person has mentioned the language barriers. 3, data protection. 4, the internet site not fit for purpose, if I'm right on that one. And 5, 6 and 7 virtually are the same issues. It's professional versus non-professional. and that is the bureaucracy, the form filling, the lack of money, the technology. Hopefully, in a nutshell, I've described everything that's been put in this panel vis-a-vis the problems. But what I'd like to do now, we only have 15 minutes left, and I'd like to open to the floor, please, because I see people champing at the bit. That's an old Northern Irish term to get speaking. And I'm sorry, I'm going to only give you 1 minute each. I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to take your microphone off you if you speak more than 1 minute, because I know that there'll be lots of people. Will you put your hands up? Now, if nobody puts their hands up, you can have more than a minute. But please put your hands up and take the floor. You've only got 15 minutes, and I'm going to ask you. And I think Cora is looking as if she wants to speak. Oh, you were scratching your head. Good. I've got my first speaker. Please introduce yourself, where you're from, and then I'll start the clock. Thank you.
Yes. Hello, Daniel Fair from the European Parliament. I have one question to initiatives. Do you, when you plan your campaign and your next campaign steps, also at what other campaigns do, and do you have ways to exchange good practice and maybe some structured way?
Thank you. I'm not going to go back to the panel until I get more people intervening. Is there anyone else got any burning questions? Am I not getting? Good. Yes, introduce yourself. Thank you.
French, it's better. Thank you. Donc, je suis Anthony Demann d'Allemagne.
Yes, I come from Germany, and I'm involved in the basic wage initiative, basic revenue. And up until now, one of our problems is that we don't know what the Commission thinks about our issue, and if there are double signatures, so online on the one hand and on paper on the other, if you have a dual system, what will happen then? Will the Commission acknowledge at least one of those media, or will both be lost, as it were? So far, I've heard that there is an ongoing dispute between the Commission and certain national bodies, and we don't know what the situation is. So I wonder what the Commission thinks about this. Are they likely to take a clear decision on this anytime soon? Yes, thank you very much. I'm just looking around to see if there are any other questions.
I warned you. Yes, where have we gone? Oh, excuse me, at the very back. Matt, please.
Hi, thank you very much. We just registered ours yesterday. We're doing one on female entrepreneurship. A question to the panel. Should we do it or should we not do it? And also, is there any example of anybody doing it without any money? Because actually we've put no money behind this at all, because we're running companies, so we don't have lots of money. So your thoughts on that would be great. Thank you.
Much in a nutshell, should we or shouldn't we is the question. Yes, and there's all right, good, I'm getting more hands, thank you. Right, 1, 2, 3, yes.
Oh, yes. My name is Joel Siladi. I live here in Brussels. I work in the European Parliament, and I hope I will be one of the initiators of a new ECI on the rights of traditional minorities. So I found the seminar extremely useful, saying we met some initiators 3 weeks ago, organized by the Lower Saxony representation. I'm from Romania. I'm a Hungarian background from Romania, and let me remark the fact that unfortunately there are really few initiators from our region. So we are really happy that Mr. Šefčovič, the Commissioner Vice President Šefčovič, knows the region, but I'm asking how to share the experience in order to encourage NGOs and civil activists from our region, Central East Europe, to be more helpful and to be more active as a Marshall Plan for the NGOs, a so-called Marshall Plan for NGOs. And the second question, may I address a question to Mr. Commissioner Šefčovič?
Can I say you may, but he was not forced to answer.
Collecting the experience of the campaigners, if from juridical point of view, Vice President, if you consider possible to review the regulation before April 2015. Many thanks.
Thank you very much. Right, I've got three more. What at the very, yes, yourself with the glass, no behind. Thank you.
Hello, I'm David Price. I'm a historian and a journalist. I write Schumann.info on the origin, purpose and future of the community system and your democracy, EUR democracy. The initiatives haven't gone through a full cycle, and the major problem is that even a good initiative will be blocked in the council. The other part of the problem is the Economic and Social Committee, Committee of Regions as well, was set up originally to make proper initiatives inside, in permanent dialogue with the Commission, and that the treaties over the last 60 years say that the Economic and Social Committee should be elected on the basis not of national organizations, but European organizations. So if we had, the problem is to get from where we are at the moment, where the Council can refuse an initiative, but also the Council actually nominates and decides who will be members of the Economic and Social Committee. So if you want democracy, what you should have is an initiative to have democracy at the European level inside the Economic and Social Committee. And I ask, can an initiative of this nature be done?
Thank you very much. Next question in front of you, and last question thereafter. Yes?
1, 2, 3. Yeah. Thank you very much. My name is Karsten Berg from the ECI campaign, the campaign for the successfully implemented ECI instrument itself. I want to express my great respect for the panelists and appreciate that you are going into the cold water, so to say, and you are the real icebreakers for all the ECIs to come in the future, and all your experience will be, so to say, evaluated. At the same time, and there was a question, can we recommend other ECIs to run? We always say yes, because only then we will further develop this instrument. But let's be also aware that other large NGOs like Greenpeace, Global 2000 have decided, as long as the instrument is designed so restrictive, they will not make use of this. So my question goes to the lady from Amnesty International. When do you plan to make use of the ECI? Correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't heard about that from you, but you're on the panel here on ECI. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I've got one more itching there, but I've got a slight problem in that we've only got 5 minutes left, and I've got a panel of 9 and a commissioner to come in. So, seriously, I'm going to stop talking. 30 seconds there. Go ahead. Sorry, there. Front.
Okay. Sorry. I have a question. I will direct it to Anna Gore. And this is, why do people sign an ECI? And the background of the question is, I have gathered signatures around Easter in Berlin, and it's very cold, and we stand in the streets and ask people to write a citizen submission. But it was it's important that people really expected a change, because a referendum would come after this citizen submission in the German capital. And what my question would be, would you think it's better if a more binding procedure would come, that then more people would be signed, and I think even that media would be then more interested in referendums?
And last question over there.
Oui, bonjour. Ludmila Bulgar de l'Agence Européenne.
Yes, I'm from the European Agency for Roma People. A question for the representative from Amnesty International. For Roma, in a campaign, how do you get over people's preconceptions about this topic in order to have a successful campaign?
I'm going to ask the Vice President if he would like to come in first. Dare I say he's only got a minute, but and I'd like the panelists to join after us, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Really respected family. Concerning, there's a question from our colleague from France on this 2 signatures and validation of it. I mean, here it's true. Indeed, we are in a dialogue with member states, because it's true that some member states would prefer, I believe, for the easing up of the administrative burden to actually strike down the support, because if it's written on paper or filed online, so they see it as a confusing, and they would like to recognize it. Of course, we are here very much on the common sense approach. It means that, I mean, it's clearly when this initiative was supported on paper and online, it's quite clear that the citizens want to support it. So I think that's a very basic approach, which I hope we will be able to convince on the member states. And on top of it, I would just remind here that we've been very, let's say, creative and lenient if it comes to how the signature should be verified, because we know that that 5 or 10 or even 1,000 signatures doesn't make the difference. So we've been proposing from the beginning that what would be enough for the Commission, it would be sample verification. It means take 5%, 10% of the signatures, check if they are serious, and then you will see if the support for the initiative is serious or not. And therefore I hope that these minor details that you could have certain citizens who sign up twice and should be, because of that, just not recognized as the supporters will disappear. So hope that this would happen, and that we will be definitely taking it in that direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, there was one other on the NGOs supporting the Marshall Plan for NGOs.
The Marshall Plan on NGOs, I think that's something which, of course, it's very interesting, very important. I think that we see how the civic society is much more involved in the European affairs, and I think that also the proof how much in the Commission we respect the civic society is that we have a discussion here, because we see your committees as a best bridge to it. And I think that it's very clearly it must be the both-way streets, strong support and interest demonstrated by the civic society and civic society organizations to be ready to debate, to engage, and of course from our side to listen. If it comes to the money, I already made my explanation earlier on, that how difficult it is with the money these days, how difficult it is for the administrative budget. I had to find another 2.5 billion of savings for the next 5 years. We have to cut down 5% of personnel, so you can imagine that how we are counting every penny we have to just keep the European Union going. Thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm allowed a couple of minutes, but I would like the panel to put up their hands as who really burningly wants to respond. I know that I think Anna's definitely there, and Gail, yes, and Carmen. Okay, so yes, right. I'll start with Anna, but again, 1 minute. Thank you.
Yes. So should you start an ECI? Contrary to what was said this morning, there's lots of opportunities of campaigning. We have causes, we have Avaz, we have Change.org. I mean, everybody's tired of getting yet another request to petition online. And what is also interesting is that the petitions online, it's not always the serious ones that get the most sort of popularity. We saw with the Ian Duncan Smith a few weeks ago about whether he could live on £57 a week or something. Huge response. And yet for other more serious things, not really at all. The problem with the high level of data requests is that for people to sign, they have to give away an awful lot of information. And as an ECI organizer, I'm wondering whether the ECI is actually interesting for me, because at least with Avaz.org or Change or Causes, I have the information, I have those email addresses, and I'm able to keep in contact with the people who've supported our cause. But what happens with the online collection system provided by the Commission, and which we certainly couldn't have afforded if they hadn't done it, is that we have no contact at all with who those people, who they voted, how we can keep in touch with them. And yes, of course, they could come back to our website and fill in yet another thing, but you know, this is really not a very appropriate tool. Again, whether you start something with no money at all, yes, everybody's doing everything with no money at all. I see international education, UN Special Envoy George Mr. Brown is calling also for a new campaign on quality education for all. So it's just a tool. Go ahead, use it. Whether you get signatures or not, or how it ends up in a year or 10 months or however many few months you've had cut off yours and we had cut off ours, in terms of having people realizing that actually their technical workspace is not adequate for the requirements. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Anna. Gail.
Merci. Je voudrais moi aussi répondre à la question de est-ce qu'il faut.
Yes, let me deal with the question of whether you should do an initiative or not, and what do you do if you've no money. And whether to do it or not, I'd say yes, because it's the only thing there is that gives citizens a real political status and legitimacy. We're all familiar with democracy in our own countries. There are lots of doubts and a lack of confidence currently. For all ICE promoters, it's very important that you do it because it gives citizens a political role. It is possible to do it with no money. In our cases, we started with absolute zero, and currently we haven't been completely blocked anywhere, although it's taken a lot of time and trouble. Everything is possible with whatever you've got. It's a bit DIY, I know, compared to what's done with international organizations, but nonetheless it is possible, which is why it's a good thing in itself. Thank you.
Yes.
I would like to express our good practice, how to engage NGOs, the Marshall Plan for NGOs, very shortly. If there is a particular topic, then you should to contact the NGOs who work with this topic, for example, minorities, then contact minority center schools, local communities, human rights organizations, professors who researchers focus on this topic, journalists who are specialized on this topic, and also show every time that there is action with your initiative to make it visible on media, on social media, to organize, like, I don't know, flash mobs, debates with local communities, seminars. You can do all these things for free, and also try to approach MEPs from your region, from your city. I am sure that you can have hosting MEP in order to have press conferences, etc., and to present your ECI in the public, and also maybe to find not I don't know, also local organizations, international organizations, foundations. There are so many ways. You just need a time and to keep all your volunteers enthusiastic. Thank you.
The enthusiasm. I have two last, and I've got 2 minutes. Right, I think Vincent and then Carmen, please, and really 30 seconds each. Thanks.
Alors très rapidement pour répondre à une question qui n'a pas.
So very quickly, just to respond on a question that hasn't been answered yet. Do the initiators contact themselves? Yes, to deal with the administrative problems that we've all run into, problems caused by the Commission, and we have a joint mailing list, and a hotline has been set up to some extent, so we are in touch with each other, we ask each other questions, and in practical terms, is there a benchmark? Yes, there is. We look at what others are doing, and we try to draw inspiration from that, and I think that that's the best way forward.
Carmen, please. 2 seconds.
Yes, very quickly. On the question whether Amnesty is considering an ECI, well, it's quite simple. We always look for the most effective campaigning tool at a given time. It's not excluded that at one point we will decide that ECI is the way to go. But yeah, maybe we can talk a bit more after the panel. And I think there was a question on Roma, if I understood well, also addressed at Amnesty. I didn't see the lady who was it on Roma? Yeah. Well, it's basically the same answer. As you might know, we literally yesterday launched our Roma campaign in the EU. So we are campaigning on rights for Roma. Again, if at some point in time we would think that ECI could be an efficient tool, then we might consider it. But do come and talk to me if you're interested in our Roma work.
May I thank the panelists, and may I thank you as audience. And I think you're not maybe aware that we have interpretation that must allow us to cut off at a certain time. And that's why I've rushed you. My apologies for rushing you, but you're going to have all afternoon. You've got lunch now, and we're due back here at 10 to 3. And thank you very, very much for a very interesting session. I think we need to have more time for this sort of thing. Thank you.